Hi there, I'm Nancy from Black Sheep Knitting, and we have a special treat today for you. I'm sitting here with Irina Shaar, who of Fiber Chats, which is a podcast that I'm sure you're familiar with. So welcome and thank you for coming. How long have you been doing this?
So I started last June, so a little over a year.
Over a year. Oh, wow. Wow. And Irina interviews fiber artists and other artists. Is that
It's
correct?
basically like all the fiber artists from all over the world, all different kinds of fiber arts. So there are crocheters, embroiders, knitters, obviously, macrame people, and anything and everything.
And what possessed you to do this?
I feel like I always was the person who supports the underdogs, and there are so many brilliant designers and so many brilliant artists there, and it's so hard to promote yourself. So I was thinking, how can I showcase their talents? And thus the Fiber Chats was born. So some of the people on my channel are very famous. Some of the people you probably never heard of. But the mixture, it was sort of like the idea of, you know how you go to the library and you can find the book that interests you specifically on that day. I wanted to create a library of fiber talent out there. So if you want to learn something new about weaving or some techniques of spinning, you can find somebody interviewed on my channel who will be an expert in the field.
How do you find these people?
Mostly through Instagram. So
Thank goodness for Instagram.
I mean, sometimes I would just DM them. Sometimes I would see who they follow, and if I follow the same people, I would reach out and say, can you introduce me? So it depends.
Oh, that's great. And this is all done via Zoom?
Zoom, yeah.
Wow. So, of course, I'm older, and so technology is always a barrier for me for almost anything I do in this business. So was the learning curve difficult for?
So I was thinking I'm just gonna go live with a couple friends that I met on Instagram and just ask them a couple questions. And so I did that for the first, I think, 10 or 11 episodes. And then my son came home, and he's a software engineer at YouTube, and he was like, listen, it's all very cute what you're doing
He's
here.
At YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I need to talk to him.
And he's like, you're on the wrong platform. Nobody's watching videos for an hour on Instagram. So he was telling me that I should start a YouTube channel. And I started looking into it. And I was like, how do I do it? He was like, well, there's this fabulous organization that's called Google it. So he wasn't like too much help. He just encouraged me to go that way. So I Googled how to upload all the videos from Instagram to YouTube, and then my 16-year-old, who happened to be technological genius, apparently, I didn't know that, taught me how to edit the videos. So it's all like I started first and then I learned later.
Oh wow, that's brave of you. How many have you done so far? I think I looked up, I thought it was over 200.
Yeah, it's been
That's
over 200.
Amazing. How long are each of them?
So each is about 45 minutes to an hour. And I've done also a few different, so there's like about 200 interviews there, but there are also some episodes where I talk about like the books I like, or when we went to Rhinebeck, like recap of Rhinebeck. And recently I started a new series called Humans of West Knits, because I was thinking nobody interviews the knitters.
Right.
So I was like, who next? Brilliant. Stephen West, so famous.
Yes.
So I started that, and it was very actually like well received.
Oh, you found a lot of people who responded? A
lot of people responded. They reached out. I just did an open call. I said, like, if you're interested in doing something like this, just email me. And a lot of people emailed and said, I would love to be on that. And it was very interesting because, I mean, he's based in Amsterdam. He's American. So you would expect him to be popular there and here. But there are people from Australia, from New Zealand, from Africa, from like all over the world. I have like a friend who is in Brazil. He like his whole store is doing it. So it's like really fascinating how popular he is worldwide.
Well, he's an amazing. You've met him. Have you met him in person?
I interviewed him.
Yeah.
I've met him in person at Rhinebeck
Yeah.
a couple years ago, but he didn't know who I was,
That's
so
good,
I was
yeah.
just like one of the crowd. But then I interviewed him in April,
Yes,
and
I
that
saw
was
that,
like
yeah.
really interesting to
Yeah.
get to talk to him, and
He's very approachable, I thought.
he's very approachable. But I also find that Steven is very business savvy. Like, people think that he has all this team that does things for him, but he's like, he knows what he can let other people do and what he's good at.
Yeah, it's always a good thing.
Right.
It's a good thing to know.
He knows what to delegate.
Yeah. Have you had like a favorite interview? I guess he's probably close to the top, but maybe not.
It's sort of like choosing a favorite child.
Well, true. Yeah, you can't do it.
There was like one moment when I was interviewing Elizabeth Lovick, when I felt
and
like
she is Elizabeth
so my journey into Shetland lace happened through her.
Hence your gorgeous, which we'll talk about in a minute.
This design is actually by Monique Boonstra, who is a passion for lace everywhere, on Instagram, on Ravelry. And Monique has a Facebook group called Find Shetland Lace. So if you guys into Shetland Lace, go check it out. So this is her design, this shawl called the second one. She has a series of 4 shawls that I actually did a special episode on just those 4 shawls. So if you're interested in that story. But I first discovered, I went to the library and I was looking for Shetland lace because I saw Monique on Instagram putting her Shetland lace. And I was like, what's Shetland lace, right? So I went to our local library and they had one book. It was Elizabeth Lovick's book called The Magic of Shetland Lace Knitting.
Oh, I think I've seen that, yes.
And on the cover of that book, there was this blue shawl with the heart stole.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that looks cute. I'm gonna knit that. Little did I know that it was supposed to be difficult, right? So I knitted that shawl. I mean, that was like, thank God for that group. They were so helpful. They were like telling me everything I'm doing wrong and how to blow. Like, I didn't know anything, basically. I was so new to knitting also. I only started to knit like a few months prior to that.
Oh my God.
So when I got to interview Elizabeth Lovick, it was like meeting Elvis in real life. Like, it was something like, I rarely fangirl when I interview people because I'm interested, like we're all humans, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. My whole interview with her was like, oh my God, I love you. Like, I had a hard time actually thinking of questions just because of how much I was like,
you were
admiring
starstruck.
her.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Is she an older woman, young woman?
She's an older woman.
Wow. And
she's
so
in England, yeah.
Oh,
So it was
she's
just,
in England,
it was like interesting to learn her story and see how, like, she's lovely. She was like everything.
Well, have you had interviews that haven't gone well? You don't have to mention names, but have you had ones that
it's also like, if I look at some of my first interviews, I'm sort of like, what was I like? I'm not an interviewer. I'm an engineer by trade.
Oh, so you are?
It's it's not something I'm comfortable with. It's not something like.
Well, it doesn't appear that you. I think your questions are always fascinating, and I admire how you come up with them for each. That they're interesting in each interview. They're not always the same question.
The thing is, like, so the first few interviews I did, I was trying to write questions down, and I quickly realized that I can't do it. It's very difficult for me because I was concentrating on the questions, like, that's written. I was like, okay, did I ask this one? Did I ask that one? And I was losing my train of thought, and like I was losing what they were saying. And then I think it was like third interview, I was like, okay, what can possibly go wrong? Let me just improvise, right? And it felt so much more natural. So when Steven West's team contacted me and they were like, well, we need the questions, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't do that. So go say no to Steven West.
Yeah, right.
But I find it easier because I find that it makes the conversation like more organic.
Yeah.
And what they say,
it's a conversation. It's
right.
not. Yeah.
And
well,
that was
here
the whole
with my
idea
list, I'm not looking at my list.
But that was like the whole idea of fiber chats. Like, I wanted it to feel like a conversation between friends.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how many people are unaware of knitting podcasts, and then some of us who are totally addicted. Like, I just can't wait for the new ones to come out.
Right. I mean, it's sort of like YouTube is like the whole different culture because, like, if you are on Instagram, you sort of know that you're supposed to follow somebody, right?
Right.
If you want to find them again. On YouTube, we don't have that culture of like subscribing. Like,
Yeah.
nobody told us that it's like why we should subscribe because it's, you know, it's like, why would I want to watch that again? But that's not why you should subscribe, and you should subscribe, guys. Like, press that subscribe
Right.
button now. So the reason why people should subscribe, because even if they don't watch your podcast ever again, the fact that they subscribe shows YouTube what audience might be interested in your podcast. So people who watch the same programs or similar programs to people who subscribe to your channel will be recommended your videos. So it's not that you're pressing the subscribe button and you're gonna be drowned by our podcast.
Right.
First of all, they understand that if you like our podcast, you're probably gonna like podcasts of other people similar to us.
Yeah.
And also they understand that people who are similar to you and what they watch might like our podcast. So it's actually helps with the algorithm.
Right. Is there a financial incentive to have more
Subscribers?
Subscribers.
So YouTube, you can be monetized on YouTube. If you reach 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, which is, it's usually easier to get to 1,000 subscribers than 4,000 watch hours.
Yeah.
Then you becoming partner with YouTube advertisements, basically. So they put advertisement in your program and you're getting a little payment from them. It's not much.
How do you, so they let you know, or did you have to seek that out?
Once you reach 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, you can apply to be in the partnership with YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
That's it. That's very interesting. Do you have podcasters that you follow?
Yeah, I follow actually a lot. Like,
Do
I
have a
follow
favorite
you.
one? Oh yes, I know. That's how we got talking in the beginning.
So one of my favorites is Martin, the Welsh tenor. So his podcast is Need 365, and I can watch him do anything.
Oh, I don't know that one. Oh goodness.
Yeah, so we actually partnered up for this Mystery Knit Along this time, and we did a lot of we did a collaboration between our two channels. So we did live on his channel, and then I did interviews on my channel. So
Wow.
Wonderful guy. Love watching him. So he's a British guy who is a knitter and crocheter, and it's just like very entertaining.
Oh, I'll have to do that this
I
weekend.
love Suzanne Bryant's channel because she has every technique known to men explained like really well. So she was actually also a guest of my channel.
And where is she located?
She was in California. She just moved, and I don't know where.
Has she written a book or anything, or
No, but she's a certified hand master knitter from the Knitting Guild Association. So she shows every technique like just the way it's supposed to be, very clearly explained. Like, brilliant channel.
Oh wow! Oh good.
But there's like so many, Amy Palco, like, love her channel. You can just, it's so soothing.
So
and
I don't know. These are ones I don't know. I mean, I've got my favorites that I watch all the time, but I'm unaware of some of these.
Well, it's my nature of finding the
things.
Underdogs, right? So
Exactly.
I'm going for the small channels.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, lately I've been watching Young Folk Knits. Have you ever watched her?
Yeah.
I just love how, and this is what I'm envious of other podcasters, is putting music, beautiful music with it.
I'll teach you how.
Thanks. And just watching the creativity of some of these people and what they've done with.
Well, it's also like it gives you the ideas of what else you might want to make or knit or try.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, it definitely does. Well, I've watched Fruity Knitting from the very beginning,
right? And
I could go back and watch again, just because what I love is you're always going to learn something.
Right.
And to me, that's because if I'm, the old expression, if I'm sitting, I'm knitting, but I don't like to sit and knit and like not learn or not. Watching television wears thin after a while, although I think I've watched all kinds of things.
And it's like, it's interesting also to compare your experience with other knitters' experience. And that was like the beauty of this Mystery Knit Along, because suddenly, like, every channel you go, they talk about it, but they all dealing with the same drama. Like, oh my God, like, this didn't work, or I didn't know I could do that, and now my tension doesn't match my purl to my needs. Like, there was like so many interesting elements.
Yeah. Do you have a Ravelry group?
I don't, I should. I'm horrible at
Well, I don't. Me too. Yeah, because a lot of the podcasts that I watch talk about
Right.
that, which incidentally brings up another question I have. Some kind customer, and she may come in to yell at me for this, but said that I shouldn't call myself a podcaster because it's video. Do you make a difference between the two?
Potatoes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. Do I call? Is it a vlog or is it a?
Right. I mean, I guess it's a vlog, but.
But everybody, all the, and there's so many of them now, call themselves podcasters.
I think people are like, a lot of people concentrate on things that don't really matter.
Right.
You know, I got yelled for saying that it's easier to knit brioche continental style rather than English style, and this lady said, well, why are you trying to convert us? And I said, well, you know, I need Fair Isle, one hand with continental and one hand throwing, and that's better for me, that's easier for me. And I tried doing it just continental and I found it difficult. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with trying different styles for different things.
Right.
And it's all knitting, right? It's not that deep.
No, right. Well, that's the great thing about this new era of podcasting, that you can watch techniques and you can learn different ways of doing things.
Right.
And not everybody we have a very active instruction program here. We have 10 or 11 classes a week, and so people come in and people can walk in and get help and learn stuff. But for the person who lives out in the middle of wherever, you can turn on your computer or your TV
Right.
and get all this just amazing amount.
Well, that's why they call it YouTube University.
Yeah.
Because you can find everything.
Yeah.
How to do it.
So what about your knitting experience?
I actually learned through YouTube. So I started the first knitting experience. I was probably 6 or 7, and my grandmother. I used to spend summers with my grandmother, and I guess like one day it was rainy day or something. So she showed me how to knit. I didn't know how to cast on or cast off. She just showed me to knit and purl. So I was always like very artistic. So I got into that. And then the summer was over, that week was over. I came back home and I was trying to knit that like enormously long scarf. And my mom came in and she was like, you're never gonna wear it, like just go play somewhere, you know. And that was the end of my knitting.
Oh.
And then 5 years ago, a friend of mine was having her 4th, and as she assured, the last child. And she said, I never had a baby shower. And I said, oh, I have to throw you a baby shower. And I was thinking, what can I make for the baby? Something like heirloomy sort of thing. And I went on YouTube and I saw those cute little booties, and I was like, I think I can figure it out. So that was my first project, and I never stopped.
Ah, great. Yes, and so tell us about what you're wearing. This is
Shetland lace. There's like a lot of little tree designs. So this is actually knitted with the Jamieson and Smith one-ply cobweb, and it was hand dyed. It's 4 different shades of blue. It's hard to see on the camera, but it was hand dyed by Monique Dreyfus, who is a good dear friend of mine from Netherlands, and she does she just buys it in bulk and then she hand dyes it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did the knit along for Shetland lace to teach people how to knit Shetland lace, and that was part of it.
Oh my goodness! Oh, this is the right side of it. Yes.
There's really no
right side, right or wrong.
Right.
So did you knit the center first?
This is basically you need the four borders first. So you start with the edging, then you continue on to the border. So the Shetland lace, it's always edging, border, center. And borders are usually the most decorative. So you start with the edging, then you start with one border, then you repeat it 4 times, and then you graft the borders. So you can see grafting on this corner. Yeah. So you graft it together, and then you basically pick up. You have live stitches on one of the sides, and you just knit the whole center.
Wow. How long would you say this took you?
This didn't take me long because it's a thicker, even though it's cobweb, it's very sticky and it's thicker. So that took me I want to say 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. I do knit obsessively though, like, so I
Yeah.
do knit a lot
And are
of
you a
hours.
monogamous knitter?
Well, I used to be monogamous knitter until I met Martin from Knit 365, and Martin has like 16 whips like at any time. So
Oh, really? Yeah.
he's sort of like been a bad influence, a good influence, I don't know. Like, but now
That's
I
me.
have like 1 to 2 to 3
Mm-hmm.
projects on the time. Like, I don't know, it still stresses me out a little
If
bit.
you have, yeah, if
to
you have,
work
and
on
do you
few.
have a stash? Well, I see behind where when you're sitting behind you, you have a lot of
I
yarn on
mean,
the
my
shelf.
stash is probably like comparable to at least one Wolfgang store.
We love that. Why not?
I'm like, I feel like yarn collecting is a completely different hobby for me from knitting. Like, it's just on a different
Well,
level.
a lot of people say that, and I would say that quite frequently to people. Not all yarn is meant to be knit with. It's
Right.
meant
I mean,
to be
some of it is
collected,
just admired, yeah.
and you just admire it, and
Right.
then maybe you knit with it, but maybe
And
you
I
don't.
meet so many yarn dyers through my interviews, through Instagram, that it's just hard to even not to buy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Well, that people say to me, well, "Why did you go to Rhinebeck?" You know, because I have a
Right.
whole store full of yarn, and a lot at home. But it's just the process of seeing it and then having it. Like,
Do
I
you
just
treat
have
your
to-
yarn store as your yarn stash?
I do, I do, but I have a pretty big yarn stash at home. And then although I made a goal for myself this year that I'm gonna knit everything that I bought at Rhinebeck before I go to Vogue in
I mean, promises
February.
are meant to be broken, right?
Exactly. But I'm gonna try to stick to this. And my first one was to finish the 2 sweaters I was knitting, which I just did today. And I'm gonna start to knit a skirt, which is
Well, I don't know how you do it, because forget about the fact that you have the whole store, you're also dyeing on top of it, so that's like makes it even harder.
yeah. Well, my dyeing is somewhat seasonal. I don't do a lot in the winter because I dye in the basement and it's cold down there.
Right.
But we'll see about this year. It made me think of something else, and now it just sort of slipped. Oh, do you have a favorite thing you like to knit? A type of knitting? Like, some people love Fair Isle, some people like simple projects.
I like complicated things. I like things that like keep me on my toes, sort of. So like Shetland lace is probably gonna be forever my favorite. Every time I finish a large project, I like to do some, like, something easy, something simple. So I do, like, I love cables. I'm not great at Fair Isle. I don't dislike Fair Isle. I just don't think I'm like the best with picking colors. And my
that's
tension
interesting.
is getting better a little
Yeah.
bit, but like there are real artists, like people like Alison Randall. So she's a Shetland designer. I mean, that girl, she's like painting with colors,
It's amazing. Yeah.
So like I don't have, like, I can repeat her colors, but it's hard for me to pick my colors to make them look as good as hers.
Yeah.
Hi, Alison.
Well, I mean, I guess with anything, it's, doing a lot of the same thing over and over again makes you better at it. I mean,
Well, the thing is, because I only started to knit 5 years ago.
I know, you're amazing.
I
And
feel
you
like
knit this. It's just extraordinary.
I feel like I have so much to learn still. There is so many things that I want to try that I haven't tried yet. Like, I've never knitted a yoked sweater, and I know that I can do it. I just like never found time to do it. I never knitted like anything that I needed to stick. I never done intarsia. So there's like still so
which
many
is
things.
The great thing about this craft is that there's a lot to learn.
I only knit first pair of socks last year.
Oh, wow. You're amazing. Do you ever, I had somebody today in one of my classes who said something about, I'd be terrified to do that. And I started thinking about it. There's nothing in knitting that terrifies me.
I was
or that
terrified to try socks.
Were
I
you?
don't know why.
So it sort of trends through everybody's mind.
I was interviewing
things,
Professor Pearl, Christopher McGovern. He lives in New York, and he's a designer specializing in socks. And I was interviewing him, and I said, I'm terrified of socks. I don't know why, but it's like there's 2 of them, and they have to match. So after the interview, he emailed me, and he's like, here's the pattern, you're gonna knit it, and you're gonna make it, and it's gonna be fine. And I knitted it, and it was fine. And I actually found a little mistake in the pattern, and I was like, oh, like, is that supposed to be like that? And he's like, oh, sorry.
Oops. Well, that's one of the things that I find that I love about knitting, is it's like the whole figuring it out, to me, is, and figuring out what it is they're telling you to do. I always tease people about, don't play the what if game where they say, well, what if I do this? Well, what will happen? I like that part of knitting, that I don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I do a lot of test knitings. Like last year I did 19 test knits.
Oh my gosh.
Besides like everything else I was knitting.
Wow.
So it's very interesting for me, because like that was the way for me to learn, because I wouldn't know how to do something, and I would tell designer like, I've never done that, and they're like, oh great, here's the pattern, do it. You know? So
you were the perfect test.
Right. And it makes, like, I learned that not knowing what you're doing makes you a good tester, because if something is not obvious to you, it's probably going to be not obvious to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it helps designers to see where they can talk a little more about like certain technique.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I can understand that. So do you contact them if you want to be a test knitter, or do they put out a call for test knitters?
It depends. Like, I mean, a lot of designers became friends of mine, and they would just reach out and say like, do you want to do this? Some people, like Jennifer Bialy, I was forever begging her to pick me for one of her tests, and eventually she was like, okay, fine. Because she had the lace, actually it was like bird eye pattern. It was like a shrug with bird eye. The whole thing was bird eyes. So it's a Shetland pattern, and she said, okay, like, how about you'll try this? And so I did like a few, but I think like 3 or 4 now tests for her. So that always feels like winning a lottery.
Yeah, I've done one of hers. I think she's genius.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just genius. She has a scientific background, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I think she's like one of the most innovative designers of the century.
Do you have other people that you admire?
Olga Jazzy is just like out of this world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there is anybody else like her.
Yeah.
And I actually was so lucky to meet her at Rhinebeck. It was like...
I saw her at Rhinebeck too.
Yeah. I mean, I interviewed her on my channel. It was like absolutely brilliant.
Wow. There was another one. Who did Zandy Peters? I cannot figure out
those talking.
Designs. Yeah. Yeah, so anybody else that sticks out in your mind?
I mean, Suzanne Crawford is just like absolutely brilliant.
The woman
vintage, that she does vintage knitting.
So she knit that, but I have her book. Yeah.
So she's like absolutely lovely. I love talking to her. I mean, there's so many.
I know there are. I mean, I have my favorites, and
so
people.
Who are yours?
Well, let's see. I love petite knits. I love anything that she does. Golly, Robin's pointing at something
Beth.
What? Beth, what are you wearing? She's wearing something. Oh, she's wearing a petite knit. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is Beth who works for us. She's wearing a petite knit. And I do like Andrea Mallory. I like Joji Locatelli. I like kind of your the ones everybody likes, but I do find other different designers. I like Coco Knit, some of her things.
Well, the thing is, like, I find that there's so many designers out there, right? So when you come to Rhinebeck and every single person wears the same 3 designers, my thing is like the rebel in me tells me to wear something else.
I'm with you, and I decided that same thing after making my Alpenglow, that there were so many people with the same sweater, and I thought, I'm not doing this again. I'm making my own, or I'll make up my own Rhinebeck sweater.
Well, and even the idea of Rhinebeck sweater, sort of.
Yeah.
I reject that. So I was like, it doesn't have to be a sweater. It can be Rhinebeck hat or
Whatever.
Rhinebeck shawl, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I came this year. I mean, I did bring a sweater, or two even, but I also brought the fourth one by Monique Boonstra by Passion of Lace, which is the biggest Shetland lace shawl I ever knitted, and it was with 4,000 meters per 100 grams
Oh my
yarn.
gosh.
It's like on 1.75 millimeter needles. So that
Oh
was
my
my
gosh.
Rhinebeck creation.
Oh, that's
And I
amazing.
also brought a shawl by Julie Knits in Paris called Bubbly, and that was
Yeah.
a big hit.
Cute.
On
Yeah,
the,
yeah. I like her pieces. Her designs. Actually, as I think about it, there's probably hundreds I could start to name if I started looking at
Right.
things that I've knit over time.
But I
There's
also
some that
noticed,
I
like,
like.
interestingly, that a lot of designs that if you knit it, it becomes yours. You know, like I was knitting Rastus' shoe. He sent me a pattern for one of his designs, and his was in white and black. It was like very masculine, very
Yeah.
like geometric, and I knitted it in lavender and light purple. And it was so like Victorian lace basically, and people went nuts for that, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, I would skip the pattern when I first saw it, but then I
Yeah.
saw yours and I bought it." So it's
Yeah.
like I find a lot of times you see somebody's colors
You
that
got
you like
to see,
better.
yeah. That's
or-
why I always going through Ravelry. I look at all the projects that have been
Right.
done in it, and if I don't like any of them, then I don't do it. But if I see, and I often see something that somebody's done and thought, I want to do that. I've also taken. I saw a sweater in a catalog. It was a sweater catalog, not a knitting catalog, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought, gee, that looks like the Anchor's summer sweater. So I just got all the colors in, I think I did it in felted tweed, and just did it. And I was so proud of myself that I could take something that I saw and that then I could do it. And
Well,
I
I'm
found
still
a way to do that.
working on that. I don't know. Like, I mean, I can do some things, but
Yeah.
then there are some things that I feel like I need to take another class, so I need to read another book.
Well, you can always learn more. I mean, I take classes when I can. I go to, I went to Lake Placid to the Vogue Live, Destination Live, with Hohi and Vera. And, I thought, well, I've taken workshops with them before, but I'm going to go. I want a vacation. This will be nice. I learned so much, and it
Do
was
you ever
just,
teach classes?
I teach a lot here, and I've taught in a few, I did yarn dyeing in a few shops and did things, but I don't go, anywhere out on the road or anything like that. But I do teach a lot at workshops. We do a lot here, which I find fun, and I'm kind of looking at the clock, and unfortunately the shop is getting ready to open, which is too bad. But yeah, Robin has a
I
question.
have a question about swatching and what's your philosophy about swatching? How much do you do before you start a project?
Is that a trick question?
What's you can tell the truth.
What's swatching?
Oh, is making a test. Yeah,
No, I know.
Yeah.
I almost never swatch. I mean, unless it's a garment, and even then, I'm sort of like hoping for the best. These things I would never swatch. It just sort of like I don't think there is a shawl that can be too big, so I just go by that.
Yeah. Do you have? I did want to ask you. Do you have a favorite yarn that you like to knit with?
I mean,
or type of yarn?
I love merino. Like majority of things that I do is probably merino.
Yeah.
For like as sacrilegious as it sounds, for Shetland lace, I prefer either merino or cashmere, which is like not something.
Not Shetland.
Right. But it just like I like the feel of it better. So probably like merino is like my go-to.
Yeah. Well, it's soft. Everybody loves soft,
Right.
and it's very versatile. Yeah.
And I also like, because I don't need too many sweaters, like I know that sweater would be better with something a little more hardy, but for what I'm knitting, it's like usually.
Yeah. And maybe lastly, has this led you into this adventure you've been on with podcasting, led you into thinking you want to do something else, or you want to, do you still have a million ideas of people to?
do have a million ideas. I have like sort, you know, it's like because the way it started, like nothing was planned.
Yeah.
So I'm still questioning where I'm going with it and how the channel is gonna change and
Yeah.
what else is gonna happen. So it's sort of like day by day.
That's great. Yeah, it's wonderful to have that. I mean, we're all so lucky that we have this passion for fiber.
Right.
And I ventured in a little bit into felting, and I might do some more with felting. And I don't ever run out of ideas for knitting.
But that's another thing that my channel taught me, that all fiber arts have so much in common, and it's never too late to start a new one.
Right. It's never too late, and you're never too old to learn, as I've learned. Well, I want to thank you so much,
Thank
Irina,
you for having
coming.
me.
Yeah, thank you
I
for
love
coming.
being on your channel.
Oh, thank you. And I know what I'm going to be doing this weekend, watching more of your fiber chats and watching the people that you mentioned. I think
Thank you.
that's exciting. I can do that all day and knit and be perfect.
I'm actually going to the New England
you
shipping
are?
wall, so I'll post the
good.
recap
Yeah.
for that as well.
I was going to go, but I sadly sprained my ankle the other day, so I wouldn't be able to walk around. But I used to show at that I used to vend at that with my yarn, and I love that because it's not a big
I've never
venue.
been there, so it's my first
Oh
time.
yeah, it's nice.
so-
It's very nice, and it's just small enough that you can see everything, and there's a wide variety, plus the animals, which is kind
Well,
of
I'll post the recap and you can
Okay.
watch it with your
Okay,
ankle.
I will do that. I will do that. Well, anyway, again, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
And we appreciate your coming, and all of you, I hope you will like this and that you'll subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Just a quick reminder that we have our holiday gift boxes are now on sale until the 21st, I think, but you'll see it on the email. So check that out if you're looking for a gift for your loved one, or if your partner or spouse is looking, not knowing what to get you for the holiday season. This is a wonderful opportunity. I think we've sparked it up a little bit this year, so I hope you'll enjoy it, and I hope you have a great week of knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.